the beginning, because I'm sure there's lots of people that really want to know what the digital audit team actually do at Grant Thornton.
Right, yeah, so we are an internal team that serves our wider audit department. So we're sort of all focused on this idea of giving assurance over financial statements. So that's the sort of trust and confidence in the financial markets. The digital audit team within that then provides tools for the auditors to do the best jobs they can do. So we're focusing on things like automation, so a lot of tasks that auditors do day by day you can take out and therefore do at scale, so it's saving time for the auditors to focus on areas of judgment. They use their expertise more and less on the routine tasks. But then that expands out into analytics as well. So it's not just doing the same as we've always done, but with a computer, it's entirely new audit tests. So taking all that data we have access to and sort of testing on a scale that you can't possibly do just as a human, and trying new ways of spotting fraud or errors, and giving us that assurance we need as auditors.
So could you tell us a little bit more about how the digital audit team contribute to the overall success of Grant Thornton?
Yeah, so I think the way I see it is that we're a real driver of the quality of our audit product. So we provide that consistency in that sort of automation side. So the outputs are now the same across all our audits. That means it's much easier to review. It means that you're getting a sort of consistent experience audit on audit, but also in the way that it can analyse huge quantities of data and apply sort of really clever statistical tests and new sort of analytics and AI. It can identify things that we wouldn't have otherwise seen. So it's all about finding what we need to find out from the data. And so that's a really important part of the quality of our audit. There's also an efficiency part to it. Computers can often do things faster than people can. And so, that again saves time so that we can work across more complicated areas. Everyone who's worked in the audit department will know how pressured things can get, particularly as we get close to deadlines. So if we as the digital audit team can free up some of that time, it gives people more time to stand back, to think, to take a really critical approach to all the tests they're working on.
So what kind of impact could a trainee have when they join the team personally? What kind of impact could they have?
Definitely, a massive impact, I think, is the summary. It's we're at a real sweet spot in the size of our team. So we started off, it was just me and a colleague working on some data analytics, and we're now a team of over 40 people. So that gives us like a really good scale to do some more transformative products, but it's still a pretty small, nimble team, and very much a sort of early stage team as well. We've not been around for decades and decades as a digital audit team, so we've really got that sort of flexibility to say, this bit isn't working well, let's just change the way we do it. So as a trainee coming into that, you've got a sort of real opportunity to say, this doesn't feel like it's the best way of doing it, or here's a brand new idea. And particularly if this is the first intake we're hiring directly into the team, like previously we've taken people who've had experience in the audit department, experience in tech departments, and that's great to have that experience coming in, but there's something really exciting about people who are coming straight into our team, and that's an entirely fresh perspective.
Absolutely.
And so we're really excited to have that challenge, to have that sort of innovation in it. Ultimately we're all innovators in the department, and we want to hear fresh ideas.
Absolutely, and I think that's what makes these roles extra exciting as well.
Absolutely, it's a really exciting new era, and we want people to come in and help shape that.
So a question we get asked a lot is, how is AI transforming our audit processes at Grant Thornton, and how are we ensuring that we always stay at the forefront of AI innovation?
It's a hot topic. So I think there's two different sources of this. So there's the sort of ways in which we can bring AI into our auditing. So There's obviously lots of sort of commercial ways of doing that, so the OpenAI sort of APIs, and that works both in terms of how we work, so they're sort of real productivity boosters in terms of how you can get them to summarize meeting minutes and this sort of thing. Like, it allows you to do the same thing but much more efficiently, takes away the more boring parts of the job. You can just get an AI to write that bit. So yeah, looking at what tech there is, there's so much happening out in the market, and we want to stay on top of that, see what innovation is happening around. The other part is then what we do internally, and I think this is quite a specific thing for audit. We're such a highly regulated industry that it really matters to understand the AI tools we're applying. So it's not just a case of throw a large language model at something and then hope that the output is right. Like, we need to really trust, because what we are delivering is trust in our product. So that trust needs to go the whole way through. So we actually have a lot of internal research and development. So I head up the sort of research lab within the digital audit team, and that has a real focus on AI, developing AI that we can trust, and AI that we understand and is serving our purpose maximally, rather than taking a really general solution and applying it. So in 2020 we built our first sort of AI powered tool, and I'd say the complexity in that tool is a tool that takes complicated batches of transactions and sort of disaggregates them into their pure accounting entries. So it's like sort of splitting something apart and seeing what makes it up. And like, it's a really complicated tool, but actually that complexity all sits in pre-processing the data, in taking those outputs and understanding them. Sort of, we've got bespoke algorithms that take it, and there's a sort of AI machine learning part right at the center of it. But it's not a sort of massively fancy tool. It's not the most complicated architecture. Actually, for that purpose, what we really needed was something simple, something explainable, something that we could show to regulators. This is why it took this decision. And so, it's about choosing the right tool. Whereas other tools, so we've got, you've heard of large language models. That's the sort of ChatGPT, and it generates the sort of next most likely word. So it's the sort of way to think about it. It understands language really well. What we've built is a model that does the same but for accounting entries. So it doesn't think in terms of words, it thinks of financial transactions, which means you can then apply it in all sorts of exciting ways. So you can sort of predict the next most likely transaction instead, and give a sort of glimpse of a possible future for a company and all these transactions it's going to create. But it can also look at the transactions that did happen in the year and say, like, how likely were each of these? If there's one in there they're like, I wouldn't have predicted that happened, then maybe that's something the auditor should look at. So that's a really complicated model we've built. Like, that's not based on any existing architecture. We've built that entirely ourselves, and yeah, it's surprised us how effective it is. It's been able to learn things like seasonality all by itself, and it's finding missing transaction as well, which is a real challenge in the audit industry. So yeah, hopefully that gives you a flavour of that sort of internal research and development we're doing as well, because yeah, we have to understand it. We want it to meet the needs of the audit department specifically.
So what does the future of digital auditing at Grant Thornton look like?
I think fundamentally audit is a data-based service. So we are taking the data that our audited entities are saying, these are their accounting records, and we're wanting to verify that that is accurate. So that might be looking at the sort of internal consistency, that might be comparing it to external evidence, bank statements, invoices, but ultimately that's just a set of matching one sort of data to another. And that is what digital audit is doing. It's taking data and matching it and comparing it and analysing it. So as data becomes more and more digital, as it becomes more, the formats become easier to interrogate. We think technologies like open banking, that's really revolutionised how data is transferred because of that consistent data format. Then sort of the role of digital audit is only going to expand. We can take more and more on in terms of what the computers can do to analyse it, insights they can show to our auditors. We can do more and more sophisticated things. So yeah, it's a really exciting point. I think the technology coming into the market is really maturing, and with the advent of things like AI, like the scale of what we can achieve through that is just getting higher. So yeah, really exciting time.
So perfect time to start your career in this space as well, and an opportunity to be really creative and to shape the future.
Quite, I think there's a real momentum in the sort of innovation we've got in the department. It's a sort of really good time to jump in on that. We've got the sort of scale to do exciting things on a sort of like, we've got enough people to take on big projects, but yeah, you can come on and take a small project and really take ownership of that all by yourself, and you'll see some product out there, some new way that auditors are interrogating their data and say, oh, I did that, I looked after that project from start to finish. So yeah, it's sort of, yeah, a great time to jump on in.
So what would you say a typical day would look like within the digital audit team at Grant Thornton?
So it varies a lot. It varies a lot by role as well as like day to day. So
is there a typical day?
Quite, exactly. We've got like some people who work in like more frontline sort of services, so that will be doing bespoke things for particular audit clients, particularly our larger clients. So building some really fancy analytic or something like that. So their role will more be shaped by what tickets happen to come in on that day. So yeah, it's very much you come in the morning and you're not entirely sure what's going to happen. You see something, all sorts of different tasks come in. Some people will be a bit more sort of calendar driven, so we've got people who are analysing all the data we're getting from all the people using our different apps and tools and services, and identifying which offices are using them really well. Can we share those learnings around, sort of really optimising how people are taking that on. I'd say probably most of our people though are more project based, so for a particular quarter you might have 2 or 3 projects you're working on. And so day to day it's very much sort of balancing those. You'll be working with lots of different people, so they might be focusing on training or the actual Python developers. I'll be looking at the sort of quality control documentation, like all pieces that have to come together to release it, and yeah, working together to make sure we're on track with that. Got a deadline to keep you focused. So yeah, I think that's what a lot of people do. My role is probably a little different again, so I'm a sort of mathematician in residence. That's probably the best way to describe it. So yeah, sit in my office and write up on my chalkboard lots of equations. So my projects probably have quite a long time span, so for our really big projects that could be sort of multi-year research projects. For example, we're working on a big sampling project at the moment. There's a sort of industry standard sampling technique that's been around since the 1980s. Everyone uses it. It's just sort of been the established standard. But we've looked at that and we've actually realised there's loads of scope for improvement there, and have come up with something which is sort of much more efficient, much more accurate. It's a really big project we're working on at the moment, and so last week there was a piece of it, an algorithm that decides the sampling plan, so which items it's going to pick. And I put in what's technically known as a greedy algorithm, which meant that I knew that it was going to give a good answer, but it wasn't necessarily the best answer. So one task I had last week was to redesign that in a way that would give us something that we knew was going to be the best. So that was very much a chalkboard activity. I went over with my chalks and filled up all the equations and diagrams and scribbles, and gradually this new method took shape. And yeah, that's now in place and working really well. But other parts of that same project are going to be more code-based. So in a different part of it, then I was looking at some optimizations, making it run really fast. And I swapped out the way that random numbers were being generated in the code. It's a fairly technical point, but in fact it had an incredible result. The evaluation of the sample results were 175 times faster before and after, doing exactly the same thing, but just pure code optimization. So yeah, it's very much that sometimes we'll be doing the math side, sometimes code side, sometimes like meetings and planning, and yeah, that's very much true of everyone in the department. It's lots and lots of different activities, all sort of different forms of some intellectual challenge you're taking on. So yeah, keeps everyone busy.
Yeah, there sounds like there's loads going on within the actual digital audit team.
Definitely.
Would there be opportunities for trainees within the digital audit team to work collaboratively with other teams? And if so, what would that look like?
Definitely. So there's lots, as you say, within the team itself. We're split in sort of little sub-teams. We like to have it where we've got a little group of people around us that's close enough that you know them really well, you work with them closely, and then, you work with people on your particular projects. But beyond that, we work with lots of other departments as well. So obviously the audit department themselves, we're producing products and services for them, so it's really important that we sort of engage with them regularly, understand what their pain points are, how we can improve that. We work a lot with our technical teams, so making sure that we're compliant with the various audit standards, with our infrastructure team, so you've got to think about the practicalities of how you deploy all these solutions. We also engage quite a lot externally as well, so we need to talk to our regulators to sort of keep them up to date with what's going on. We've even been able to sort of shape some of the standards, so what the industry will be doing, what counts as a good quality audit, we can talk into that and say, this is where we see it going, can we make sure the standards are going to match up so we can keep improving quality and everything else keeps up. We also have good connections with the rest of our Grant Thornton international member firms, so they're all doing audits just the same as us, so it's really beneficial to sort of share the knowledge we have and the tools we have and see what exciting things is going on in the network. So lots of people sit on various international committees to keep everyone in line, hear about what everyone's getting up to.
Great. And what qualities would you say you are really keen to find in your trainees?
Yeah, I think someone who's going to flourish in this role is going to be someone who's really self-driven. Like, if I look around our team, then almost everyone has their own unique twist to their role. Like, it's not a whole load of cookie-cutter employees. Like, everyone has their own particular talents and skills, and that's really shaped what their role has become. So I think if someone comes in with a sort of vision of like, I really love doing this, or I want to learn about that, sort of be bold and ambitious, say, I want to do this, and really your career will shape around that. It's a really good team for that. I guess what drives that is ultimately going to be passion for the job. Like, you can't flourish in somewhere if you're not enjoying it, and that sense of loving that innovation, the technology, and ultimately what we do, the audit, like, it's a really important part of the global economy. We're feeding in the confidence and assurance to the numbers that form all these companies around the world, with the sort of checking that they are standing up to scrutiny, that everyone's doing what they should be. Like, that's a really important piece of how everything fits together. So being excited about the way in which you can improve that you can make those audit reports stand up even more, and I think if you're passionate about that, you're definitely going to thrive. In terms of technical skills, there's a real range of things that are helpful, and to the extent that obviously no one's going to tick all of the boxes. We've got all sorts of different people in the team, so it's very much a training role as well. So it's when you see the skills in the role, a lot of those are ones you're going to develop when you're here already. Like, we're really committed to giving people the training they need and allowing them to learn in the direction they want to. A lot of the more specific skills, if you're going into a software development role, we'll give training for Python, which we use quite often, other languages. If we're delivering training, then we want you to be a great communicator. If you're dealing with support, then we want you to have a cool head under pressure and to work to deadlines and to come up with creative solutions that people might not have thought of. So whole range of skills. We want them all.
So, final question, Ben.
Yeah.
How would you describe the culture within the digital audit team, and what makes you stand out?
Yeah, quite. So I think it's definitely one in which everyone is their own individual, and everyone feels really happy to sort of be themselves. Yeah. We've got these sort of structures where you have a smaller team around you, so you've got people who are doing a much more similar role to you, and that's really helpful to sort of bounce ideas off people and ask the quick question, oh, how do you get to this bit, and so on. Like, that's a really helpful structure. But we also try and make sure we have lots of connection points between all the teams, so you feel a real part of the whole service that the digital audit team is providing. Particularly as we grow, we're really mindful of the fact that we don't want to end up in our little silos with everyone doing the same thing. We love that fact that we can hear about different people's roles and the way that all fits together. I think it's a real culture of innovation as well. Like there's nothing that feels really set in stone, that's unchallengeable. We're sort of new enough as a team that we're really open to saying, is this the best way of working? Can we challenge any of the things we're doing and do it better? It makes it quite an exciting team to work in, because you don't feel hemmed in by decades of here's how we've always done things.
Yeah.
You can say, actually, this is the best way to do it, and we're going to do it this way. Let's try out something different. A really exciting team to work in. It's also nice that we're sort of constantly delivering new things as well. Like, there's a real tangible output that we've got. So there's sort of constant little things you can celebrate, that we've released this new product, we've designed this new service. You have something that you can point to and say, this many months ago that wasn't there. This is what we've done as a team. It makes it a really sort of positive experience to be a part of.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Ben.
Sure.
That was really insightful. I know I learned a lot from that too, and I really hope that it's helped all of you to get a bit more information around what our digital audit team does and create some interest in our new and exciting roles. And if you need any support with any of your future applications, please reach out to our trainee recruitment team, and we hope to hear from you soon.